their quarterback. They're 4-9. But yesterday, Stephen Jones gave a vote of confidence to the head coach, Mike McCarthy. Here's what he said.
There'll be absolutely no change with Coach McCarthy. If you look at his track record and his pedigree, he's consistently won year in and year out. We have the utmost confidence that this ship is going to be righted quickly. Mike's going to be the leader of this group, and he's certainly a great head coach.
All right, so there's a definitive statement from the person making the decisions. Jeff, Saturday, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm shocked with this vote of confidence. I mean, listen, from a head coaching perspective, your job is to inspire your team or get the right guys to inspire your players, right? Has that happened? I mean, we have a defense that's given up 250 yards rushing 3 different times this year. So what kind of changes are we making? By the way, we have an offense that is last in the league since Dak Prescott was injured. He's an offensive coach, right? Like I'm not really sure what we're talking about that we're going to right the ship. Like, we have to talk about putting the right guys in the right places. The head coach has to hire and put the right guys in positions to make plays. He has not done that. As I look at this football team, if I'm Dak Prescott, I'm asking, why would I want to sign long-term here, right? Like you got me some receivers, but, where are we at here? He's played it as well as he could. You've seen how important he is to this football team. But as I look at this, my question will be, what changes are you going to make to put this team in the best chance to win in the future? Because right now, hey, I don't have the good feeling we're heading in the right direction. I can assure you of that.
Marcus, you made similar remarks to that last week, but there's one thing I saw in the notes this morning that I think is important to bring in as well. Dan Graziano, what can you tell us about the way the Cowboys are looking right now at Zeke Elliott?
Well, they're confused, Greeny, because I think the Cowboys thought that when everything happened with Dak going down and the trouble on the offensive line, that Ezekiel Elliott would be a guy that would elevate his game and play at a level that kind of kept them afloat, and he very much has not. And I know from talking to people there that they're surprised by that. Obviously, he's a little banged up now, but that hasn't been the case all year long, and it's not like he just started playing poorly. When you ask people in that building what's up with Ezekiel Elliott, the response is, he's playing lousy. He's playing like, what Lamar Jackson might call cramps. But I think at this point, you're looking in the future here, and he has a $13.7 million cap hit for next year, the highest for any running back in the league. Can't get out of the contract. We've talked about how they're going to need cap space to sign Dak Prescott and how the cap is going down next year. If Ezekiel Elliott doesn't bounce back and play like one of the best running backs in the league next year, he's going to be a big problem for the Cowboys in a number of ways.
So let me turn to my resident former Cowboy here, Marcus Spears, and ask the very simple question. Marcus, do the Cowboys have a Zeke Elliott problem?
Yeah, this year they do. But they have a lot of problems, G. But when you think about what Graz just said, Zeke was supposed to be the shining armor with everything that's transpired. He was supposed to overcome the offensive line. And I know we're asking for a tough situation for Zeke Elliott, but he was supposed to be the mainstay and the catalyst around all of the turmoil that's going on in that franchise right now, especially the attrition with injuries and things that have transpired from an offensive standpoint. And he's not living up to it. And it further pisses me off. Like, every time I can't help but think about what Graz just said. We're talking about Zeke Elliott getting his money after going to Cabo, and Dak doesn't have his check. It is crazy to me that is transpiring. And before Dak was injured, that was the only sign that the Cowboys may be able to be okay this year. Just the only sign. Right. So I get it, and I know I'm emotional about it, but yes, they have a Zeke problem because Zeke has not looked like the highest paid back in the league, let alone we're talking about the fumbles and a guy that's costing his team. It might be all right not to be as good because you got an offensive line and you're starting quarterback out and a lot of things are happening. But when you are costing your team games, when you are costing them opportunities, that's when you get into that area of, oh, we made a mistake.
It certainly does look that way right now. We've talked about it a lot. Maybe they did everything sort of backwards, and this is where they find themselves. More on this as we go. I got to get, back on Get Up. Bottom of the hour, game of the year last night. Browns, Ravens in the fourth quarter. Lamar Jackson in the locker room with cramps. Trace McSorley in with the Ravens down by 1 in the final 2 minutes, and down he goes, untouched on a slippery turf. Everyone can see it's a bad-looking injury. Devastation in the moment. But hold everything. Lamar Jackson doing his best imitation of Willis Reed back on the field on a 4th and 5 with the season on the line. Throws a miraculous touchdown to Hollywood Brown, giving the Ravens the 42-35 lead after the 2-point conversion. But hold everything. The fun was just beginning. Brown's ensuing possession. Baker Mayfield, who had a terrific night, would cap it with this toss to Kareem Hunt. They would tie the game at 42, but they would leave 64 ticks on the clock. And that would be enough time for Lamar Jackson to do this. From the pocket, Mark Andrews over midfield, sets up Justin Tucker. 55 yards. He's the best kicker in the NFL because he is clutch. That's your ball game. Ravens go on to win it 47-42. Again, an absolute thriller. 20 points scored in the final 2 minutes. And it does bring up my Twitter poll question of the day, because both teams look right now like they will get into the playoffs. Ravens still have some work to do, but if they get there, which one feels built to make a deep run? Could see this going either way. Last I checked on my Twitter page, I think the voting is close, so get on there and cast your vote. Browns, Ravens, who you got to go farther in the playoffs? And let me get my guys in here and see what they think of it. And Swagoo, I'll start with you. As you watch these two teams last night and you sort of figure out where we're going to be a month from now, which one you think is better built to make a deep run in January?
Last night I said the Cleveland Browns are dangerous, but the Ravens are built to make a deeper run. First, it's experience, G. The Ravens have been at that point, and I think them having the fight to get into the playoffs will actually give them some juice going into the playoffs. Coming off those great seasons, and obviously we've had the conversations about Lamar in the playoffs, but this Lamar Jackson is terrifying to anybody when you get into the playoffs. And then when you think about this, you look at a team that's been through all the things that the Ravens have been through, COVID, even the quarterback, Lamar having to go back into the locker room this game, the way they're built to go into Cleveland in that environment, backs against the wall, a dog fighting his way out of a corner, and they were able to get that done. So I think this win catapults them, but also I reflect back to something Jeff said. Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, Lamar Jackson going into the playoffs this year and having the ability to do what we watched him do last night. That's the team that I think can make a big run, because usually outside of Pat Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers, you're going to have the best player on the field. And even with those three guys and anybody else in the league, you're going to have the best athlete on the field. So I picked the Baltimore Ravens, and from a defensive standpoint.
It's one vote for the Ravens. Greg McElroy, what's got your vote?
We've seen a pretty spectacular regular season Lamar in the past, only to see him not play so spectacularly in the playoffs. I'm going with the Browns. Shockingly enough, I'm going with the Browns. It's because of Nick Chubb. And it's because of that offensive line and that offense's identity. It's really about running the football and controlling the line of scrimmage. And Nick Chubb has turned into not just a good back, we're talking about an elite back. Oh, by the way, here comes Kareem Hunt, who's also extremely capable when lined up in an I formation and as a pass catcher coming out of the backfield. I mean, those two in a 1-2 punch is really exciting. Oh, by the way, Baker Mayfield's coming into his own. He's more confident, he's more accurate, and I do think that if they got forced into a situation where it became a throw-a-thon, he would be more equipped at this point with the weapons he has to beat you through the air. This is a team that's more balanced than the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, when Lamar gets out and they're playing against man coverage and they're getting cover zero, like, he'll torch you. But I do think that the Browns are a team that can beat you in several different ways, as opposed to the 1 or 2 different ways that the Ravens can beat you. Both teams are good, but I'd lean towards the Browns, shockingly enough.
I can't ignore it, Marcus, when you're doing that thing with your head. What is your reaction to this?
Gee, the Browns defense doo-doo, period. Like, they're doo-doo. Like, you think about, look, Baker Mayfield and that offense they have it rolling. G is exactly right. But when you look at the second, I mean, G-Mac is exactly right about this offense. And that's the reason why I think they're dangerous. But it better not be a shootout against a good quarterback, against a really good offense, because that defense has been atrocious. Even going back to last week, we looked at the Tennessee Titans, and we know how that game transpired. Second half, the Titans went crazy on that defense. We saw Lamar last night And look, it's not about just playing. So undisciplined. So undisciplined. And the things that they were doing were just uncalled for. Even on the zero blitz at the end of the game. Keep outside contained against Lamar Jackson. At worst, run to the sideline and force him back into the defense. This defense is going to be the Achilles heel for the Cleveland Browns. That offensive performance last night should have won any game. But, you know,